Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this really weird, discombobulated video. This video is specifically, I think I started it off as like a writing vlog, but then it turned into me sitting on my office floor just talking to you about my process. So stick around through the whole thing because you wade through my stream of consciousness brain on this specific phase I'm in my writing for Project Dragon. And then near the end, I explain what those phases are, and then we have a little chat through of my writing process. So I kind of wanted to come in and give you an official introduction to explain this video, because it is you drop right into my brain because I start talking about the elements of my world building and things in my world, which is a lot. It's a lot of stream of consciousness. So this video is really just a really in-depth look at how my brain works during this process, because I just keep going around and around and explaining things, and I'm just I'm so excited about it, but I realize now, as I've stepped away from it for a hot second, that a lot of you probably don't care about all these elements of my world building. So I will put a timestamp somewhere on the screen as I get into this to talk about what my phases of writing are, so that you can jump to that part of the video if you so desire. But it is fun to kind of wade through my mental gymnastics that is my world building. So enjoy. This is this video. Stick around. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. Let's get into it. Welcome to yet another vloggy type writing video where we are starting to dive into the world building of Project Dragon. I literally just finished a weekend vlog this morning. It is currently Monday, March 8th, and I am here with some world building that I've been doing because Project Dragon has just jumped into my head and it wants to be heard. So even though I said in that video that my next step was going to be building the lore for the entire world, I'm also going to work on Project Dragon at the same time, I guess, because it's also still building the world. I have bits and pieces now about the specific place that this book is going to be set in. It's going to be in Ardnablan, which is one of the places on my map, if you guys remember seeing that map in that video. And I've also done some work with the Adderlin Peaks themselves, because you know, that's where it is, that's where we are. I have a pretty picture of some of kind of the lower lands of the Adderlin Peaks, which is, I believe, a direct picture of some northern aspect of Europe. It's an actual picture from there. And I worked with the Adderlin Peaks, kind of just describing a few of the towns. So we have Tordu and North Den that are the main mining towns in this stretch of the mountain, at least. There's another one on the other side, but that's also for commerce and stuff. These two are specifically mining towns. Tordu is more of a bigger mining town that also has other things like goods and more livestock and that kind of a thing, because it is more central and easier to access because it is just outside the mountain range. Whereas North Den is dab smack middle in the mountains, which is very hard to get to, but they've had their way around it. It is a specific mining town. They mine dragon scales from these mountains, which is something that I have been super excited to explore. And I've decided that there is going to be a path from Undertale to North Den to then Malgard, the Malgard Pass, at least somewhere nearby Malgard, that you can travel through the mountains to get to these places. But in true fashion, this under pathway is also a maze of other things that have thus dug off from them, mining shafts that have kind of been there and then been abandoned, goblins that live under the mountain in their own kind of mined places. There are creatures that live under the mountain, of course, so it is quite dangerous to go through this pass, but it is one of the easiest ways to get from the Brenham Empire into the Nerian Empire, unless you want to go through the Black Shell Forest. So it's all this stuff that I've been kind of thinking about in the past hour sitting at my desk, and I'm so excited to be in it. I've been thinking for the specific Project Dragon story, at least, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I've just been writing down. Again, where they get their food from, what kind of a place this is, what the locals call the place, and kind of what the main point of this is. So if you didn't know, Project Dragon is going to be about a group of dragon keepers who run a dragon sanctuary, which is up in the mountains, which is quite hard to get to unless you have a dragon, because you can ride the dragons to this dragon sanctuary, which makes it a lot easier, or you can climb, which a lot of the villagers have done to get there originally, or go through the mountains, or however you wish to get there. There are ways to get there, but it is very difficult to get to, which is why it's been turned into a dragon sanctuary, because dragons are safe on the side, more safe than they are like pretty much anywhere else. And I've got like some of the, just like the it's turned into a very small village itself, because obviously people need to live there full time to be able to work at the sanctuary and keep these dragons well, and they need their own food sources and stuff like that. So they have that, and they also have ways of traveling to either Tordu or North Den to get their supplies and their magic pieces and stuff like that. And there is the sea nearby, which they can like only access 2 months of the year, because they're really high up north, and that is usually covered in ice except for 2 months of the year. So I just, you know, it's just slowly coming together. It's slowly coming together, and I'm really excited about it. I'm truly, truly so excited to have this world. And my main character, is she even my main character? Probably, because she's the one that I keep talking about, and she's the one that I've had in my head for the longest time. I've literally, for 3-4 years now, I've had it in my head that I want a girl who is just so badass and so ruthless to be the like lead keeper at a dragon sanctuary. I have for even longer than that wanted to write basically like How to Train Your Dragon story, where like people, like this is in a world where people usually kill dragons, and this whole sanctuary is basically set up to save them, kind of a thing, and like protect them. So that's awesome. And then I got to the point where I was like, dragons, not all of them are cold dragons, right? Like there are so many different kinds of dragons that you can find everywhere else in the world, and so this can't be the only sanctuary, because all the warm dragons would die. They would not do well. So I was like, well, what could have been the solution to that? And I was like, well, Maeve, my main character, she's gonna have set up another dragon sanctuary on an island down south, far off the coast, that keeps your desert dragons and your tropical dragons, because there's no way that they would survive up north. Up north. And then the rarer dragons that are like kind of mid-season ones that Maeve has found, she has basically a relationship with a bunch of dwarves up in these mountains, and they've carved out the interior of a mountain where there's also a hot spring, because there's a hot spring nearby the sanctuary village that the people use to keep their houses warm during the winter. They use that water to keep them warm, but they have this hot spring that they've basically run into this cavern of caves, this huge mountain that they've basically hollowed out for these dragons to live in during the really cold months of the winter, so that they don't die. Like, just things like that I'm like, solutions. They're there. It's also a world of magic, so you can do that kind of stuff, you know? Like, you can carve out the interior of a mountain. Anyways, I'm probably sharing too much about this world, but I wanted to start this video because I know I said that I was going to take you guys along with me on my world building journey for Project Dragon. So this is my starting point. I have all these random little facts, and from here we're going to build more of the like lore of the place, the history of the place, and specifically like what it looks like to live there, all that kind of stuff, and like who actually lives there. And then we'll start getting into more character stuff, and then we'll actually get into the plot of the story that I will be able to write going into April for Camp Nano. So I'm just really pumped about this world. I am ridiculously excited to do this. And I even said to one of my players the other day, I was like, because I was talking more about Project Dragon to her because I didn't want to spoil the campaign for her because she's one of my players. And I was like, oh, like there is a way that you guys would be able to meet Maeve in the campaign because she's living in this world too. And that just makes me so excited to know that these things could happen. Not probably because the storyline won't take them up into the Nerian Empire, but I'm going to be doing this thing that brings in the possibility of them meeting Maeve. So I'm very excited about it. But yes, I've been talking for 10 minutes now, so I'm gonna go. I have to teach tonight in like 10 minutes from now. I just wanted to start this video to give you guys kind of the lay of the land. We're working on Project Dragon's world building in this video, and I am ridiculously excited about it. And here's the thing. I know world building is a lot of work and there's a lot of intricacies to it. I'm only going to be doing enough that I can start this story. What I think I need before I even go into it to build this world enough that I think I have enough to go into the story, you know, like just enough world building to do before I get really interested in it. And there's like some aspect of it that I'm like, ooh, what that would make an interesting story to then go in and start writing it. There's always more world building to do, I know that. But this is the start of it, which is awesome. But yeah, anyways, I'll catch up with you guys a little later. Hello, my lovely friends. It is Wednesday today, Wednesday, March 10th, and I figured I would pop in with a little bit of an update. I do have a bit of stuff to talk about. After I did that first update that I was diving into Project Dragon's whole thing, whole shtick, I also did a bit of like world building in different towns. Like I just started going into the towns and villages and cities and stuff in my whole world and kind of building them up in a way, giving them a little bit of history. For example, I have an island that's northeast and it's got one town on it called Antovers, and I needed a place because one of my characters from Project Dragon is a refugee from a like massacre that occurred that was like a total anomaly, like it's never really happened before, of a massacre, like a genocide of a race. And it happened on a really, really isolated island. And I was like, well, I need an island like that. Where is that on my thing? And I picked one and it's very, very northern. It's a northern piece of the world and it's basically surrounded all by water. So the people who were on that island had like really terrible feuds and it just escalated and it is now completely destroyed because the kingdom that is nearby, like on the other continent, basically went over and was like, yeah, you guys can't do that. What are you doing? And like destroyed it. I worked a little bit with Ensgard, which is the capital of the Nerian Empire. So mainly I've been working with the Nerian Empire, which is really fun. I also did a little bit of thinking on specifically, like I have one little tab in here called Wars. Now, one of the things that I know going into world building is that you should only do so much that you need for what you're doing, right? Like you're not, like don't spend ages of time doing all these things and then only needing like 5% of it for what you're doing, especially with stories and with a D&D campaign. So I just wanted to do like these super broad strokes of stuff for the lore of the place. I'm going to, with my D&D campaign specifically, I'm going to focus in on the Brenham Empire politically because it does have a meaning and a situation in my campaign, you know? But I did need a little bit of the like historical aspects of this world just for my own things and just because I wanted to know. So I did a little bit of research actually, and I like looked up medieval wars that happened in real life in this world, and I came across the Crusades, which were the religious wars, and then the 100 Years' War, which really was interesting to me. I was like, okay, how could I make this into a thing for my world, and like how could these three empires basically on at Raverin come into being? Just super general, and like how it worked and how it kind of like the results of it. But I think that what I'm learning mainly through my world building and like watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts, because I have done that. I've listened to a few of the Writing Excuses podcasts so far, and really just the overall takeaway is don't do it all. Don't spend time doing all of the things, fleshing out all of the cultural bits and governmental bits and the world bits if you don't actually need them for what you are using it for. So for like Project Dragon, I knew I needed some stuff on dragons, on the environment that they're in, and then I need to work on the political stuff that is going to come with it all. And there's this huge thing in Project Dragon that specifically talks about why there's a dragon sanctuary, and in this world, in the Nerian Empire, the people worship, kind of like they treat dragons as though they are almost religious beings. Like they are treated with immense reverence. The rest of Raverin is like typical D&D. They fight dragons and they go out to kill dragons because they think it's an act of like extreme heroism, right? So it makes sense why the Dragon Sanctuary is secret from the rest of Raverin. But why is it secret to the rest of the Nerian Empire that treats them like they're religious beings? So I had to figure out that aspect of it and why that comes into the political aspect of it. And of course, in this world, I also have the aspect of like their economy. In the Nerian Empire, they mine ancient dragon scales from the mountains. So that also ties into something in this story. So it's really just main takeaway, do exactly what you need for your story. And you don't need to spend so much time on it. You just need to do enough before you then dive into the story. And when you're writing the story, make notes of stuff that you also need to know. Like if you come across something, you're like, oh, I should probably know that. Then make note of it and come back to it when you're doing a second draft. It's one of those things. I'm complicating it because I'm also doing a D&D campaign in this. And this is like an overall world where I have decided that I'm going to be placing a lot of things. But as long as I know generally, like a super general sweep of the brush, what the vibe is of each of these places, I think I'm okay. And then of course, when I actually do my campaign, I need to figure out the political aspects of the Brenham Empire, because the Brenham Empire is gonna be where my campaign is set, and then Nerian Empire is where Project Dragon is set. So that's where I'm at. This has again just become a long-winded rambly session. But I hope that it's interesting to you guys, and I hope that it also helps you out too if you are in the same boat of trying to figure out world building stuff. I am very excited about this whole world and the little bits and pieces that I've come up with, like completely random, but like I've written like a jot note list here of some life things that are like that bring in the environment around them. As I said before, I believe in my previous clip, how isolated it is. So how do they get all their supplies? Like stuff like this leads into building relationships with other places and thus other people in this world, and how and the reasonings for stuff. Really, I'm just super excited to play around in this world, and it seems so real to me now. I am nearing a point where I can start thinking about story itself. I just need to figure out the political aspects of this, because the politics are going to come into this in a big way, just from my own brainstorming and my own thoughts about the story as I go into it. But yeah, let me know down below if you guys are in this stage of your writing, or whatever stage you are in of your writing and your creation of your stories. What have you specifically learned that is like your one takeaway, your one big takeaway that you're like, everybody should know this? With characters, for me, it was that your story kind of lies in the flaws and the limitations and the parts of your character that are interesting, which kind of works as well for aspects of your world building. If you're making a magic system, the story lies in the limitations and flaws and costs of that. And with world building specifically, this big aspect of it is don't do it all. Again, you want to do a little bit. You want to do like 20% of it really well, rather than 5% of everything, you know? It just makes sense. We'll catch up with you guys a little later. Hello friends, you're a little bit lopsided because you're currently sitting on books on a chair. But I wanted to pop in because I've been doing some thinking, and I realized that I haven't really explained my process for stuff. And I figured like that'd be kind of an interesting thing to add into this video, because we've kind of gone past the ideas stage for this story, but we haven't yet reached the plotting stage, which you guys have seen me do with a previous Camp Nano from last year. But I wanted to kind of explain my process a little bit more, because why not? Why not, right? And I know that everybody's process is different. So really, this is the process between like the germination of an idea in my head to the actual drafting stages. The idea starts either as a question, an image, a moment, or a person. So with Project Dragon specifically, I had the idea in my head of a How to Train Your Dragon type story. I've had that in my head forever. Like I've always wanted to write a dragon story. And then I had the idea of Maeve come into my head, where she is a dragon keeper kind of a person. And then I used her for a D&D one-shot. Like I've had her in my head for a long time. But what really kicked the story into gear was when I had the idea of the economy of the mining dragon scales from the mountain. And also after I read Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, I had the like vision in my head of like a Viking setting up in the mountains somewhere. And that paired together just exploded my ideas. So I go from step 1, the idea, to then step 2, brainstorming. Once I have enough of these like pieces of an idea, my mind starts to spin out more ideas for the story, whether that is themes or moments or scenes or characters or what have you. It's literally just moments where my brain is like, hey, this would be fun. So it is me just like kind of living my life, doing other things, working on other projects. Amidst all that, I will get ideas. So they will not be like a full story idea, like a full story plot fleshed out. It'll be like, wouldn't it be fun if my main character Maeve had a love interest who was really secretive? And they usually happen at night when I am in bed watching either D&D or a movie, a TV show, which is not, I haven't really watched any movies or TV shows really recently. It's usually just been D&D or reading a book. Those will like jog my mind for my own stories and I'll get ideas. So I write those in notebooks, on like sticky notes. It's why I keep a sticky notepad next to my bed all the time, because I know I'm gonna have ideas in the middle of the night, or in my notes app on my phone. I do that and I do all the brainstorming stuff for a while. It depends on how long I need for the story to start gaining legs. And now once it has its legs, I like that idea that the story has legs, it will stand up and I will go into part 3 of this, moving forward, where I'm not quite yet at the like planning stage, and I'm not quite in the brainstorming stage where it's just random ideas. I'm more actively brainstorming, if that makes sense, where I will, like the story is in my head and it's not leaving me alone. One of those things, like Project Dragon has not been leaving me alone for the past few weeks. It just wants to be worked on. And with Project Dragon specifically, this has been more world building stuff because I have been doing more world building stuff. So that's the way that it's leaning. That's what I do. And then it'll be like a more active brainstorm where I will sit and I will think of things like, oh, like what could they wear in this place? Where is it exactly? What kind of world it is? As you've seen in this video, this is the stage I am in currently. This is basically, this video is you guys seeing into my brain and how I work. It is not linear. It is not like I'm gonna sit down and plan this specific thing today. It is all the things. So I will do like a giant list of stuff, just one after the other. I will go from these are the kind of dragons that they have here to how do they get their goods in this village, to what do they call this village, to oh man, these dragons have to be all cold because if hot dragons lived here they would not do well. Where would these dragons go, right? Like it's not linear, but it's all subject on this thing. I do have moments where I reach a place where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure out this specific piece of this place. Yesterday I was working on the wars aspect of this world. Like I wanted to look up wars, so I worked on that for a little bit, or I want to do specific medieval stuff. But in this stage I bounce around a lot. And it's just gathering these pieces of a puzzle that I will eventually try and put together. So after this 3rd stage, once I have enough information and I have enough pieces of this world, of the story, that I feel like I could start planning this out in a linear fashion, I move into stage 4, which is plotting and planning. And I am a plotter. I am that kind of a person who needs a very good outline for stuff before I actually write the story. So this is where I will go back and forth between the brainstorming and moving forward stage to thus build a plan. So it'll be a more specific focus within these 2 places where I start thinking of scenes and beats of the story that could be a thing. You guys have seen me try and formulate this for Project Dream in the past when I was getting ready for Camp NaNoWriMo and actual NaNoWriMo, I believe last year. I was trying to plot within a week. I can do that easily. I can plot a story within a week if I have enough pieces from my previous stages. I can formulate a story, very bare bones, just story beats as you go through. And that is my stage 4. Stage 5, once I have that plan pretty much done, I will move into the drafting stage. And then from there, everything changes and everything is loopy. But these 5 stages are my idea to execution type of thing. Each of these like stages is very loosey-goosey on its own. I really don't know what this video is. Is this me kind of explaining that I am in stage 3 of this story currently? And by the end of March, I would like to be moving into stage 4, obviously, because I do need a plot and a plan for the story before I start drafting it. I would like to draft it for Camp NaNoWriMo, but one good thing about Camp NaNoWriMo is you can make your own goals. So if I'm not quite at stage 4 yet, I will just keep working towards that. And maybe for Camp Nano, I'll write like 20,000 words or something will be my goal. It's all relative. So when you do end up seeing this, you will probably see me continuing to work in this 3rd stage of my writing process, which is generating the world specifics. After I finish that, I will be doing the politic type things and then moving into the character stuff. And then hopefully in some place there, I will have a story. I do have pieces of a plot that I have thought up in the brainstorming stage that I was in previously, because that's just how my brain works. It likes to think of like, oh, what if it's a story that has this aspect to it? Or like today I was letting Bella out and I have my opening scene for Project Dragon. I need to write that down before I forget it. Pieces like that have come to me. It's just everything else that I need to plan, and I need to know the politics of this world. I need to know them. I keep saying that because of something that I've thought up, like the problem of the story and the economy pieces of this story work together in a way, and it's gonna be this whole thing that there's something hidden within something hidden within something hidden that is a problem that shows up at the beginning of this book as well. So it's gonna be a lot of like decoding mystery, and I know at some point that Maeve and her love interest, I can't really remember her name, I think it's Ira or Ira, they end up being separated from the sanctuary and have no means of getting back other than to just trek through the forest at the base of the mountain, basically. So it's one of those things where they get separated and there's problems, and I know that this book is going to be multi-POV, and I'm very excited to basically build this because it's going to be a glorified D&D adventure party. Like, we're gonna have a Maeve point of view, we're gonna have the new kid point of view. Those are gonna be probably the 2 main points of views, and then we're gonna have some of the other keepers. There's gonna be a Goliath, there's gonna be a Halfling, and there's gonna be one other one. So it's gonna be like a really multi-POV story that I'm just really excited to dive into. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, leave a little emoji of like a sword down below because that'd be super fun. And let me know if my process is like yours for creating story or if yours is completely different, because I would love to know. Leave me a comment down below. Thanks for hanging out in this pocket of my brain. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't for more content of me just sitting in my office rambling at you for a hot second. I will catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on writing.